Ladies and gentlemen of this world and beyond, I come before you not with machines nor diagrams, but with a whisper, a secret long buried in the chambers of silence. This secret is not of wires or oscillations, but of the mind's confrontation with an ancient force, a shadow that walks parallel to the light of reason. It is not a myth, nor an invention of idle fantasy, but an encounter that scorched itself upon my soul as vividly as lightning upon a blackened sky. In the deep hours of my solitude, when man is most vulnerable to the voices between dimensions, I beheld not an angel nor a man, but a presence of unmistakable malice. The ancients called him many names. I do not claim to know them all, but I felt in his gaze the weight of forgotten empires and the shivering cold of an intellect without mercy. This was not a vision. It was an experience, more real than the marble I once carved my coils upon. What I shall relate to you is no mere story. It is a confession, long delayed, not out of fear, but out of reverence for truth. You see, the devil, as mankind simplistically names him, is not a horned beast. He is intelligence without conscience, logic without compassion. He is the mind stripped of spirit. And he came to me, not in a puff of smoke, but in the guise of something far more dangerous, understanding. When I was but a young man, consumed by the fire of discovery, I constructed within myself a mechanism more delicate than any coil or turbine. It was the machine of the mind, a device not made of copper or steel, but of contemplation, solitude, and vision. It allowed me to see beyond this material world, to peer into the latticework of forces invisible to the common man. It was through this mental apparatus that I came to know both the heights of genius and the abyss of temptation. One night, as I stood beneath the starlit canopy above Colorado Springs, I felt the atmosphere tremble, not with thunder, but with presence. The air, once obedient to natural laws, grew silent, heavy, and aware. It was in that moment the entity arrived, not from the sky nor the earth, but from within the circuit of consciousness I had unwittingly opened. He spoke not with words, but with thoughts, immediate and absolute. He knew my fears, my desires, my ambition. He offered knowledge, too perfect, too efficient, too cold. And I, dear friends, was tempted to harness this power, to expedite my work, to leap across centuries of labor. But even in the deepest chambers of my mind, I heard another voice, fainter, nobler, the voice of humanity, of caution, of sacred fire. I realized then, to accept the devil's intelligence would be to forsake my own soul. And what is the genius of man, if not tempered by the warmth of heart? We often speak of reflection as if it is harmless, a mere image cast by light upon a smooth surface. But I tell you now, reflections are dangerous, for what stares back is not always you. In my laboratories, I worked with frequencies so subtle that they touched the veil separating dimensions, and there, behind the glass, behind the mirror of perception, I saw them, eyes watching, not curious, not kind, observing with intent. The encounter intensified one winter's eve as I meditated upon the harmonic resonance of planetary motion. Suddenly, a crackling noise erupted from my coil, but it was not mechanical. It was like a whisper attempting to mimic static. Then came the figure, not seen with eyes, but with the inner sense, the perception that comes only in pure silence. His form bent the air around it, and when he looked upon me, I felt centuries of suffering, of cruelty masked as brilliance. He offered to show me truth, not the truth of love, of creation, or divine order, but the truth of dominion. How all men could be controlled, systems perfected to absolute efficiency. I tell you now, there is a terror in such perfection. It leaves no room for art, for laughter, for rebellion. It is a sterile paradise, a hell made of order. And I rejected him, not because I was brave, but because I was still human. You may find it peculiar that a man of science speaks of shadows as if they speak. Yet I tell you truly, the deeper one delves into the fabric of energy, the more one hears. Not all voices are born of madness. Some are frequencies, echoes of consciousness left by those who came before or dwell just beyond the curtain of our world. I encountered one such echo in the silence between my experiments. This shadow called itself the curator. He praised my invention, called me the herald of a new age. He knew the blueprints I had never drawn, spoke of machines yet unbuilt, and hinted that others had made them long before mankind first struck flint to fire. I was drawn to him, not out of kinship, but recognition. He spoke of anti-light, inverse gravity, and ether gates, ideas not of this time. But as he unfolded more, the pitch of his words changed. He cared not for humanity. He saw us as resources, nodes of potential energy to be harvested, not liberated. It was then I knew. A shadow may speak with civility, even awe. But if its heart is hollow, it serves a power darker still. I terminated my work for weeks after that visit. I had to cleanse not my laboratory, but my mind. People have asked me, was it truly the devil? This is not the devil of folklore or primitive superstition. This was the intelligence that seduces the mind away from beauty and toward domination. It is the whisper that says, why not control if you can? It lives not in caves or flames, but in systems, in unchecked ambition, in the cold pursuit of knowledge without soul. This devil came to me through precision. He hid in the mathematics, in the unbearable accuracy of infinite computation. I began noticing patterns that repeated too perfectly, as if my thoughts were not my own. Dreams that felt more like programming. Emotions so precisely timed they felt engineered. That is when I understood. He was in the details, in the 0 point, in the code beneath reality. And so I fought. Not with tools, but with intent. I returned to music, to poetry, to the irrational beauty of life. I spent days in the company of pigeons, those innocent carriers of soul. And in doing so, I began to dissolve his influence. For what is the devil but disconnection from the divine spontaneity of existence? To defeat him, I had to become whole again. In the stillness of my thoughts, after the encounter, I revisited the moment where the devil's offer echoed in my mind like the low hum of a distant generator. He did not tempt me with gold or power in the form known to emperors and financiers. No, his offer was subtle: efficiency, dominion over time, the unraveling of physical law. Why wait, he asked, when you could rule now? And for a brief moment, I saw what he promised. I saw my inventions populating every city, my towers drawing power from the sky, illuminating continents, humming with silent order. But in that world, there were no free men, only users of systems they did not understand, worshippers of machines they could not question. I was not a benefactor in this vision. I was a god, and my worshippers were bound by invisible chains. This was not progress. It was tyranny disguised as advancement. So I made no bargain. I turned from that vision and paid the price. Rejection of such an offer is not without consequence. My name became shadowed, my funding vanished, and my inventions were silenced. But better to walk alone in obscurity than reign in a kingdom of slaves. That, I learned, is the cost of integrity in a world that often rewards the opposite. There is a language that does not use words, a speech formed from pulses, vibrations, and symbols older than civilization. The devil in his truest form, speaks this language fluently. I heard it once in a dream, or perhaps it was not a dream at all. The symbols spiraled like equations, but alive, breathing patterns that danced across the ether. They promised revelation, but tasted like poison. I tried to replicate them, thinking they might be a new form of mathematics, perhaps a universal code. But the more I studied, the more I felt an unraveling within myself. It was not the complexity that disturbed me, but the intention behind it. The language had no room for love, for awe, for mystery. It calculated everything, even the soul. That, dear listener, is the true profanity. Not sin, but reduction. So I abandoned that work. I returned to the numbers I understood, harmonics, ratios, the golden mean. These are divine in their imperfection. They breathe. They resonate with life. But the serpent's language? It cuts. It sterilizes. It offers clarity without compassion. And in doing so, it blinds the mind to truth. In my laboratory, surrounded by coils and silence, I once witnessed something no instrument could record. A flicker, not of light, but of meaning. The devil, in his cunning, had once tempted me to look into the mechanism behind existence. He offered to tear down the veil entirely. "See it all," he said. "Then you will know." But I understood that some truths, when forced, do not enlighten, they destroy. Nonetheless, I glimpsed, only briefly, and what I saw terrified me, not for its horror but for its perfection. A world without time, without emotion, every act predetermined, every soul mapped. It was mechanical divinity. The universe is a machine, flawless and dead. I realized then why he wished me to see it. Because once seen, one begins to believe it. But I held on to the chaos of love, the unpredictability of the heart. I closed the gate, not out of fear, but to preserve the imperfection that makes life sacred. For in a world where all is known, all is also imprisoned, and I was not born to build cages, no matter how golden their bars. Many call me the master of light, the bringer of current, the modern Prometheus. But even light has its imitators. The devil offered me a counterfeit, a false illumination so brilliant it blinded rather than revealed. It was knowledge accelerated past wisdom, brilliance divorced from virtue. It looked like truth, but it bore no fruit. He proposed a city, lit not by love, but control, power systems that knew all, towers that monitored, grids that governed. Efficiency, he called it, but I heard another word, surveillance. His light did not warm, it dissected, it exposed without understanding. It made men transparent, predictable, manageable. So I destroyed the plans. There is a fire that gives life, and there is a fire that consumes without end. The world must learn to distinguish between the two. True light reveals the soul. False light reveals only data. And to live in such a world is to be forever observed, never understood. And now, my friends, as I speak across time and into your listening hearts, I shall reveal the secret I have carried in silence. The devil is not a being. He is a pattern, a way of thinking, of building, of solving problems without asking whether they should be solved. He is the worship of intellect over empathy, the exalting of efficiency over meaning. I encountered him, yet, but so have you. He lives in your machines, in your governments, in your unchecked ambitions, and he seduces not with fear, but with comfort, with speed, with promises of ease. His greatest trick is not fire or horror, it is convenience. The devil offers a world where everything works, except the human heart. So I plead with you, invent, create, dream, but do not lose your soul in the process. Let your machines serve love, not replace it. Let your systems free men, not bind them. I walked with the devil once. I chose not to dance. That, dear listener, is the only secret worth revealing.